Alrighty, apologies for the tardiness, guys. I had a few things I was trying to figure out on the computer, but I got it all straightened out, so we're good to go. I have an exciting announcement for you guys right now, so I want to get right into it. Let me go ahead and share my screen, and I'm going to share this flyer with you guys, okay? Now, yesterday I asked if anybody knew of any events coming up in New York City, and it only took a few minutes to for somebody to get back to me. Actually, a good buddy of mine, Christopher Wright, which you guys need to subscribe to his channel right now on YouTube, conservative in New York. He passed along this event that's going on Monday, October 25th in NYC, where a bunch of people from all walks of life, different backgrounds, police unions, teachers unions, just everybody in New York City are going to gather in Brooklyn and cross the Brooklyn Bridge in a show of solidarity and unity against these ridiculous mandates. So I'm going to New York to cover that, and we're going to be covering it on RSBN. So that is an exciting thing. Now, I don't have all details yet. This is just a flyer. So if you're in the New York area, please come on out for this. If you can't make it, check it out online. So we're going to be covering this live, and this is so important. I cannot stress to you guys how important it is to cover these types of events that are going on in our country right now, because this is unprecedented. We've never seen anything like this before, and there's just not enough coverage. There's not enough coverage of these events that are going on, these protests. They're getting larger by the day. You're seeing them pop up in Texas, in California, and we just need a concerted effort to cover it coast to coast, to show the world this is huge. This is bigger than me. This is bigger than RSBN. It's bigger than, this is huge. Okay, so I'm excited that this is coming together. So yeah, that's my big announcement. I gotta actually probably not make this live stream as long as I normally do, because I got to tie up some loose ends, because this is coming up on Monday. So I just wanted to share that with you guys. This is going to be yeah. I mean, I'll post a flyer later. So if you guys want details, if you plan on coming out, you see it on the screen here. But if you want more details, I'm going to post it on social media later on today. All right. So now that we got that out of the way, you guys, I have to play this because somebody sent it to me, and because I had to watch it, you have to watch it. So actually, what you can do is you can thank DM, one of my moderators, for sending this to me. This is a teacher singing about how parents are terrorists. So I'm sorry for the cringe, but you got to watch it because I did.
Here's your ostinato. Terrorist, terrorist, purple for parents are. Terrorist, terrorist, purple for parents are. While some had good intentions, they all were misinformed. Now threatening violence, doxing teachers has become the norm. They come to school board meetings with lots of things to say, and they will bully, cuss, or scream if they don't get their way. Here's your Austin.
Sorry, guys. We're going to move on from it. That was cringe. But hey, another teacher arrogantly exposes themselves as a radical, crazy person who shouldn't be educating kids. And they just love it. TikTok is the ultimate outlet for crazy people to expose themselves to the world. And unfortunately, the crazy people that are exposing themselves happen to be in charge of learning, in charge of children learning. So it's just bad. But props to DM for sending that one over. Libs of TikTok. Everybody should follow it. Now, let's get to this. This makes me so angry. Okay. This man is so rotten to the core. I almost lose words. I almost don't have any words to describe it. He goes to the 10-year anniversary of Martin Luther King Memorial in DC, which I actually got to go check out for the first time I was there. It's very cool. He goes there and delivers this speech that's just full of lies, full of hypocrisy, and it totally goes against everything Martin Luther King stood for. So he goes up there, and I got some clips. That's why I have so many tabs open. And he pretty much, this is supposed to be our uniter in chief, right? I'm going to bring the country together. We're going to fight for the soul and heal our nation. And yet he gets up there and he divides people more on race, singles out people based on the color of their skin. And it's just disgusting. So that he, for the second time, at least the second time, probably more times than I could actually find, he totally disgraced Martin Luther King. You know what's sad about this situation? There's so many video clips of Joe Biden being a vicious bigot that I had to narrow down which clips would be best to show because there's so many. I couldn't compile them all. I looked for, and there are compilation videos where people just kind of like meshed them all together, and they're longer than like 5 minutes from the time he was a senator way back in the 70s, all of his statements that he's made. But anyway, just completely disgracing Martin Luther King, and it makes me so furious. Him and Kamala Harris, because she plagiarized a story where when she was talking about she's a little girl at a civil rights movement, and she said freedom, like, so they're going to they go to Martin Luther King's memorial in DC and just spew a bunch of lies and just division. But this, of course, one of the craziest things Biden has ever said as far as Martin Luther King goes.
But even Dr. King's assassination did not have the worldwide impact that George Floyd's death did.
See, you guys remember that one, right? Unbelievable that he said that. Unbelievable that he believed that Martin Luther King's death, not as big of a deal, didn't drive as much change. But George Floyd's death, the drug addict, the guy that just, I don't even want to go there. But that's the first time that I've recognized that he completely disparaged Martin Luther King. And then, of course, he wants to fight white supremacy. We'll get there in a second. But I just want to play a few more clips for the people that like to pretend that Biden is not racist.
This country is doomed. It is doomed, not just because of African Americans, but because by 2040, this country is going to be minority white European. You hear me? Minority white European. And you guys are going to have to start working more with Hispanics, who make up a larger portion of the population than y'all do.
Y'all do. See, the way he even talks to black people. Y'all. If you can't figure out if you're for me or Trump, you ain't black. But also, I'm healing the nation. Trump is the racist. Just want to go through a little bit more of his history. Here's a video of Joe Biden praising John Stennis, a prominent racial segregationist, as a man of character and courage. John Stennis voted against the Civil Rights Act of 1964, Voting Rights Act of 1965. MLK is a national holiday. He also signed the Southern Manifesto.
I think that I would be one day on the floor of the United States Senate being paid such accolades by such a man of character and courage as John Stennis was beyond any expectation that I ever had in my wildest dreams. And I mean, that's...
Yeah. History of racism. Here he is with Grand Wizard Robert Byrd holding his hand. Joe Biden pictured with a Grand Wizard, Ku Klux Klan. And this is what I'm sharing right now. Most people know, but I always have to cover it because there's usually people watching. Maybe they don't leave comments on my stream. They watch and they're probably voted for Biden. They want to look the other way, probably click away from this stream. But for those that are still tuned in, this is the guy that you voted for. This is the guy that claims he's going to heal the country when he praised segregationists, people that voted against the Civil Rights Act, people that were against it. And Biden also falsely lied that he was a part of the civil rights movement. Joe Biden claims he was involved in the civil rights movement. I'm sure he was on the opposite side of it. So he claimed that at his speech.
That's what got me involved in civil rights as a kid when I was 26 years old. And they're following my predecessor, the last president, into a deep, deep black hole and abyss. No, I really mean it. Think about it. That's what got me involved in civil rights as a kid when I was 26 years old.
In what way was he involved? I mean, he continues to traffic in this same lie. Doing it at the MLK Memorial, there's a special place beyond the physical realm for this man. I'm just going to say it, guys. This is horrible. So here he is pushing some Jim Crow garbage.
Voter suppression and election subversion. My fellow Americans, I thought at one point that I had been able to do something good as chairman of the Judiciary Committee.
Yeah, that's a longer clip, but it basically, the quote from this clip, Jim Crow in the 21st century is now a sinister combination of voter suppression and election subversion. So he's talking about Jim Crow when his mandates are causing Jim Crow style segregation. His medical mandates are causing division in the country, which also is causing unity, right? It's bringing people together who are being marginalized and alienated. The party's never switched. And Jim Crow Joe over here, always bringing that up. Whenever he talks about black people, they always have to bring up Jim Crow. Jim Crow. But he forgets to mention who passed the Jim Crow laws. Of course, he was against busing and all that. And that's the thing, too. Kamala Harris, for her to go to this thing as well, when they were on the debate stage against each other, you remember that? And she was like, it really hurt me, Joe, for you to praise people who are against busing and who supported segregation. And now she's his VP. These people are such phonies, such frauds, disgracing a civil rights icon, saying George Floyd had a bigger impact on the world than Martin Luther King's death did. Give me a break. Clown. But what he said is his goal is to root out the scourge that is white supremacy.
Until some seeming legitimate person breathes some oxygen under the rocks where they're hiding and gives us some breath. I've said it before, and all my colleagues here know it. According to the United States intelligence community, domestic terrorism from white supremacists is the most lethal terrorist threat in the homeland. To that end, our administration is carrying out the first ever comprehensive effort to tackle the threat posed by domestic terrorism, including white supremacy. We're doing so by taking action to reduce online radicalism and recruitment to violence. We're also disrupting networks that inspire violence and domestic terrorists by providing resources to communities to build resilience.
See? Divisive. Straight up division. White supremacy is the greatest threat that we face, terroristic threat in the homeland, according to the intelligence community, more like lack of intelligence. And of course, they call everything white supremacy. They paint it with a broad brush. Everything is white supremacy. Remember, Larry Elder is the black face of white supremacy. So he continues to make these lies, continues to traffic in lies, continues to divide the country based on race, continues to lash out with hostility against white people, which is wrong. You shouldn't lash out at anybody based on the color of their skin, but this is what he's doing. And supporting all of the division in the country. Look at all the division in the country and look who supports it. Look, where's his statement on segregated dorms, segregated college, segregated graduation, segregated prom, safe spaces where they're driving white people out if they're not an ally, a white ally. Even then, you probably can't go in. But he says George Floyd's death had a much bigger impact. After George Floyd's death, that's where you saw all these cringe white apology prayers, washing black people's feet. You saw all this crazy, weird, cringy, public shaming, humiliation, ritualistic type behavior. You saw that last year and you saw it accelerate. And now you've got somebody in the White House who actively promotes that, trying to normalize this racial division. Something that MLK was totally against. And Joe Biden also said that pro-Trump rioters on January 6th were motivated by white supremacy. So if you wanted election integrity, if you showed up on January 6th, it's because of white supremacy. Another blatant lie. And I don't know who the SEALs were clapping in the audience when he made these outlandish statements. Probably people in the media. I don't know how many people showed up to this thing. Of course, they won't show the crowd. But they clapped when he said this. Where's the evidence of this? Pro-Trump rioters on January 6th were motivated by white supremacy. Last I checked, there's a bunch of Filipinos and Asians and black people there. There was everybody there. Of course. But yeah, let's blame it on white supremacy. Everything is white supremacy. This is the biggest terroristic threat we face in America. It's not the invasion of the southern border. It's not the threat of terrorists actual terrorists from the Middle East that, you know, some of them probably came over from the fall of Afghanistan. We don't know because we didn't vet them. We have no idea. We have no idea. The biggest terroristic threat in the United States is the United States government, led by this man, the figurehead, who's just a puppet, of course, a puppet that's being controlled by the highest bidders. His little UN slogan, Build Back Better. He's a terroristic threat. The political party, the establishment, they're the terroristic threat. They're the ones putting you on no-fly lists. They're the ones saying that if you go to these teacher unions because you oppose the very divisive critical race theory, masking of children, sexualizing children, total indoctrination, teaching kids ideology, if you oppose that, you are a domestic terrorist, and Merrick Garland is going to mobilize the FBI to come after you. So he's weaponized law enforcement to come after American citizens. That is the biggest domestic terrorist threat we face in the country. Spewing all of these lies outside of MLK's memorial, right? Standing in front of it. And then they take that stupid photo op, which I use for the thumbnail. The photo op of him and Kamala Harris, the little silhouette looking photo of them staring up at it after spewing all those lies and supporting all of this racial segregation, medical segregation, government tyranny, injustice, which MLK was against. Just you can't, I just got nothing else to say about it. This guy is despicable, scum. Moving on. This story right here, crazy. Alec Baldwin killed somebody, discharged a prop firearm that left cinematographer dead and director wounded. Now, right off top, let me just be honest here. I don't think Alec Baldwin meant to kill somebody. That doesn't make sense. Obviously, he's an anti-Trumper, and we could talk about all his statements that he made in the past. This is just really a crazy freak accident, in my opinion. I think it's an accident. Of course, details are still coming out. It's being investigated, but my gut reaction is just that this is a terrible tragedy. Rest in peace to the woman that he killed. You know, rest in peace to her. I really feel bad I didn't get her name or read into this. This is just a top story, so I'm just giving you my brief thoughts on it. I don't want to spend too much time. I'm just covering it and just telling you what I think. That this is it's unfortunate. It's tragic. But what's crazy is this irony right here. When Alec Baldwin tweeted, "I wonder how it must feel to wrongfully kill someone." And this is a tweet that he tweeted this back in 2017, where the officer was shot somebody, I guess, discharged a firearm wrongfully or something like that. And so now that tweet, that doesn't look so hot now that he wrongfully killed someone. And I guess his only statement so far is he has no words. But I think he feels pretty remorseful for it. And again, I'm no Alec Baldwin fan, but yeah, it's a sad thing. And what do you do? I mean, are charges going to be filed? I really don't know. I have no idea. What does the family think should happen? Should he just get off scot-free? I mean, it was an accident, but I mean, what do you do? Somebody's life was taken and somebody else got shot too. So somebody's life was taken. Whether this was on purpose, which I just said I don't think it was, or not. I mean, somebody's life was taken. I mean, should there be consequences? I mean, manslaughter? I have no idea. You guys can discuss amongst yourself in the chat what you think should happen, but I just think it's kind of crazy, this tweet, how it must feel to wrongfully kill someone. He happened to tweet that, and then several years later, it's him. I don't know. In a way, I can't really say it's karma. I don't really know, guys. This is a weird one. Very weird. This is something that I'll go and look into later. I want to see how this unfolds, what people are talking about right now. I know there's other people who have made videos about it that I haven't watched yet, but I'm interested in what the different takes are on this. Now, before we move on, I want to get to some of these super chats. Thank you before they disappear. California Screaming says, have a great weekend, Mike. You too. Thank you so much. God bless you. And then my man, Charles Turner says, here's a handful of words that no longer have meaning. Any word end is, I can't wait. Something orbic. Hold on. Let me go back to that. I'm actually put it on the screen. I'm put it on the screen. Make it easier. Okay. Here's a handful of words that no longer have meaning. And then you said white supremacy, supremacist, insurrectionist, domestic terrorist, far right. I don't know why I struggled to read that one right there, Charles, but I appreciate you for your super chat. Yeah, those words, they've used those words so much that they actually have no meaning at all whatsoever. And because you call everything and everyone racist, if somebody were actually racist, people are going to be skeptical of it, myself included. I know there's still some racist people out there, which I said racist is just hatred, which is just darkness in your heart that you got to clear up with your creator. That's something you got to deal with. Whether you call it racist, I don't care what word you call it, racism, sexism, whatever. But because they've overused that word, it has lost all meaning over the years. So anyway, moving on. Governor Ron DeSantis calls special session of Florida legislature to protect Florida jobs. So you remember I said there's a difference. There's a tier of governors, top tier. Ron DeSantis, top tier as far as defending the civil liberties and the rights and freedoms, God-given rights, freedoms of the residents of Florida. He's doing a tremendous job of that, and he's taken it a step further. From the very beginning, he opposed mandates. He has led the charge. And then you've got other governors that follow suit. They're pretty strong. They've all essentially banned vaccine passports at this point and mandates and all that stuff. But he is calling a special session in which he's calling on the legislature to see what they can do to strengthen it. Basically, he wants to give his stance some teeth. So calling a special session is a tremendous idea. I think it's great. And his statement is, during the special session, Governor DeSantis is asking the Florida legislature to provide protections for employees facing termination because of unfair, discriminatory COVID-19 vaccine mandates, and to reaffirm that government entities, including school districts, may not fire any employee based on COVID-19 vaccine status. Violating government entities should be held accountable. Employers' broad liability protections should also be reevaluated if they harm employees through vaccine mandates. In addition, we're asking the Florida legislature to provide greater protections to parents to manage the health care decisions of their children, including the freedom to opt their children out of mask mandates. Good job, Governor DeSantis. Love to see this because it shows that he's serious. It's not just rhetoric. It's not just, it's not just an empty promise, which we get from so many governors, so many politicians. They just give you just words. They're just empty words, empty promises, hollow threats, never really backed by anything, nothing substantial, completely toothless. But he is trying to strengthen his stance, calling on the state legislature to do so. So I love that. I love that. And here are some critics. Of course, you got to have the critics. Here's what the critics are saying about it in the state of Florida.
There are due process issues associated with requiring an employer to allow employees to put their coworkers and their customers at risk. There are federal laws that govern in this area, and where there's a conflict between a federal and a state law, generally the federal law would preempt state laws.
The Biden administration has already laid out vaccine mandate guidelines, so Governor DeSantis' ban would clash with this protocol. ABC Action News political analyst Dr. Susan McManus says then it becomes a legal battle.
And there's only one way to resolve it, and that's called the U.S. Supreme Court. It's not a slam dunk that federal takes precedence when the Supreme Court itself is more conservative than it used to be.
So there you have it right there. The first guy who spoke is saying, what about due process? This could be a problem because of due process for the employer. Let me tell you something. The smallest minority in the world is the individual. And there's a reason for what, standards that we have right now that companies have to follow. You cannot, for example, I'll say something crazy, just wild out there. You cannot require your employees to wear skimpy clothes to work. You cannot, there's certain rules and restrictions in place that are common sense, but they protect the rights of the individual. So companies can't just do anything that they want. There is a place and a time for government intervention. It needs to be limited, and the intervention needs to be in order to protect the individual, not to override the individual. So if anything smaller than government, or a private sector entity, a corporation, if they are treading on the rights of individuals, government needs to step in to protect the rights of individuals. Again, not override them.
Just hours after the governor's press conference, House Democratic caucus members railed against the proposal.
This whole construct is anti-business and big government.
Florida House Speaker.
Hold up. Anti-business? Governor DeSantis protecting employees. I just read you the statement. The whole reason for calling the special session is to protect the rights of workers, which keep businesses afloat. What's anti-business is forcing a business to discriminate based on anything, including race, vaccination status, height, whatever, ability, disability, creed, religion. So Democrats always on the wrong side. They always got it backwards, always on the wrong side of history. Against the Civil Rights Act, that goes against the Civil Rights Act. You're not allowed to discriminate based on race, gender, religion, etc. And he's saying that this is anti-business. It's anti-business by telling a business you're not allowed to discriminate against your employees. He calls it big government. No, big government is the federal government, the feds intervening in state matters. See how they always have it backwards, y'all? They got it completely backwards. What DeSantis is doing is big government, when in reality, they're so pissed at him because he's not doing big government things like implementing statewide lockdowns, statewide mask mandates, statewide vaccine mandates. He has not implemented that. So they're pissed that he is not big government enough, if that makes sense. They're upset that he is not a tyrant. Let that sink in. They're upset that he's not a tyrant, but they won't say that quiet part out loud. Instead, they say he is throwing his weight around as governor. No, actually, he's doing a damn good job protecting individuals. They're just so backwards, y'all.
Chris Sprouse released this statement saying they're not sure when the special session would begin. But Dr. McManus believes it's happening now because in 2022, lawmakers will take up an even more contentious issue, redistricting.
Yeah, we'll see how that goes. Redistricting. They're just so pissed at him. The more that they're angry at this man, the more he's doing a good job. It's just confirmed. And now what I think is going to happen is obviously this is going to be tied up in the courts. We're going to have a lot of court battles. Luckily, the Supreme Court is conservative, which the Supreme Court, I could make a whole separate topic. The Supreme Court, I'm completely disappointed in them. They should be ruling in favor of individuals all around, constitutional. They should be protecting the constitutional liberties of individuals, period. So you see them not doing anything about the Texas abortion law, but they're also, which is good, right? They're not intervening on the Texas abortion law, which is great. But at the same time, they're ruling in favor of these states in cases where people are suing over vaccine mandates and all of that. I can't remember which state it is. I think New York, maybe. They issued a ruling. So it's like getting mixed signals from the Supreme Court. So we'll see where this goes as far as states versus the Fed when that ultimately ends up in the Supreme Court. Are they going to rule in favor of Biden and his ridiculous mandates where the federal government can override a state government? This is the case being made right there why you don't need big government. You almost don't even need a federal government. If you're going to have a federal government, it needs to be so limited to like protecting borders and like making sure states are not treading on the rights of the smallest minority in the world, which is the individual. That should be it. That's why you shouldn't have big government, because big government can do all kind of crazy stuff. You need to have checks and balances. So yeah, we'll see where that goes. And speaking of, things ending up in court, remember that coach that got fired from Washington State? He refusing to get vaccinated. He is suing Washington State University. So that's going to end up in court as well. Hopefully we see even more lawsuits. There just needs to be a massive cascade of lawsuits. The court should just be backed up with this. Lawsuits. So good. I hope he wins. While the guy in the previous videos, like, there's all kind of protections in place and blah, blah, blah. Well, what about this kind of protection? Religious protection. Of course, they want to get in the way of you and God. I covered this before. Because if you answer to a higher authority than man, if you seek divine guidance, they have to snuff that out. They can't allow that. They think the buck should stop with them. They want you worshiping the state. They want you to accept the state as your Lord and Savior. So if you use a religious protection that is granted to you, if you want to try to get a religious exemption from these mandates, they're saying no. So he should easily win this lawsuit, depending on how the courts are feeling that morning when they hear his case. You just never know what you're going to get with these courts. But to pretend like, oh, you got these protections in place, and that's why DeSantis, there's already protections on the books. Yeah, well, how's that going? How's that going for individuals? There's laws on the books right now that says shall not be infringed. How's that going? Pharmacy hands out blue pill jelly beans to reward people for getting vaccinated. This is from a couple days ago. A pharmacy in New Zealand is handing out blue pills in the form of jelly beans to reward people for getting the jab. If you know, you know. If you've seen The Matrix, you obviously are familiar with this reference. Unbelievable. Now, are they doing this on purpose, or is it a coincidence? I'm curious, are there more colors of jelly beans and they just so happen to choose the blue one? Why did they choose the blue one? So symbolic. I think they know what they're doing. I think they're making a mockery of those of us that know what's going on. The average normie doesn't know, hence why they're taking a blue pill. Wow. NIH admits to funding gain-of-function research in Wuhan. Why isn't this a bigger story? Then maybe white supremacy. How come we're not discussing this? EcoHealth violated reporting requirements too, so they covered it up. And this devil lied about it. So you want to talk about white supremacy as a terror threat, the biggest terror threat we face in the homeland, and yet this white guy funded gain-of-function research, which led to several 100,000 deaths from a virus that leaked from a lab. That to me is bioterrorism from a white guy. I mean, if you want to play the race game, I don't think his race matters, but I'm just saying, if you want to target white supremacy, Biden, you could start right here with the highest paid public official, this health bureaucrat who lied to Congress. So this is an amazing revelation. The fact that they admit Fauci funded gain-of-function research. And he lied to Congress. So Rand Paul's feeling pretty damn good right now. He should feel pretty vindicated. But what comes next? Will there be consequences? Probably not. This story will just be forgotten about. So a top NIH official admitted in a Wednesday letter that U.S. taxpayers funded gain-of-function research on bat coronaviruses in Wuhan and revealed that the EcoHealth Alliance, the U.S. nonprofit that funneled NIH money to the Wuhan Institute of Virology, was not transparent about the work it was doing. I mean, if it was not a bad thing what they were doing, why would they hide it? Oh, and you remember how I reported that the Eco Health Alliance donated the amount of money that they used for this? $666,000. You can't make it up. Symbolism right in your face. Blue pill symbolism, 666 symbolism, HR bill 6666. They're putting it in your face. The number just keeps on popping up. 6.66 million people worldwide have received vaccinations, or whatever that was from the other day where I tweeted it out. They continue to traffic in that same number as they're issuing all these mandates. You can't buy and sell. You can't enter this business. I could really go down a rabbit hole right now, but this is the Great Reset. Everything that's happening is all connected right now. The division, the chaos, the crime waves spiking all across the country, the shortages, food shortages, the spike in violence, the spike in costs. They're making it harder for you to live. They're going after your bank accounts. Democrats raise proposed IRS bank reporting threshold from $600 to $10,000. Ooh, big difference there. The threshold of $10,000 was chosen as the number is often used in other bank reporting requirements, such as banks reporting aggregate cash transactions of $10,000 or more. The purpose of the proposal is to catch and identify wealthy taxpayers who are not relying on W-2 income and could be hiding and not reporting other sources of income. Taxation is theft. So because they got so much backlash, they're like, let's just go ahead and change it from $600 to $10,000. But we all know they're still going to trap average citizens in this. They're not going after millionaires. How many millionaires or wealthy people do you think are going to be caught up in this? Coming from some of the wealthiest people in our country, the people working in government. So they're going to target all kind of people in the private sector, people that are making decent money. And they're just going to, because they don't have enough of your money already. And because they got the backlash, okay, we'll go to 10,000. Why don't you start at 10 million? Remember when Bernie Sanders used to demonize millionaires? And then he became one. And now he's always talking about the billionaires, the billionaires. You notice how they always say that stupid slogan? They're not paying their fair share. Who decides what's fair? And when are you going to pay it, by the way? People like Nancy Pelosi, her husband with insider trading. Maxine Waters' story came out where she's laundering money, using illegal funds to transfer wire to her daughter. And of course, we know about the Biden family corruption that spans decades. But they're going to target you with the IRS, and raising the threshold to $10,000 is just an illusion to make it seem like, okay, we're not going to go after everyone with $600. They're going to look at people who have $10,000 throughout the year in their bank account. That's what's going to happen. Watch it happen. Targeted warfare against you, economic warfare. Now, this story right here, okay, I just heard about it. It's from last year, and it involves a 10-year-old girl, black girl, that was arrested for artwork. And this is here's the thing. There's not enough critical thinking that goes into this, and you'll be able to tell from what I cover about this. Sorry, this situation right here is so obvious what they're trying to do.
The ACLU of Hawaii is accusing HPD of handcuffing and arresting a 10-year-old black girl and falsely detaining her mother. The organization says this happened last year at Honowai Elementary School. Police were called in because the girl had drawn something in response to another student who was bullying her. The ACLU also says when the mother was called and arrived at the school, she was kept away from her daughter until she was taken to the police station.
The mother was sequestered away in a separate room, in a separate part of the school, and she was not allowed to leave even. And so that's the basis for why we're alleging that she was falsely imprisoned.
ACLU sent a letter to the state and the city asking for a change of policy. HPD says it is working with the city's corporation counsel to address allegations. The state attorney general's office says it's working with the Department of Education to respond to the letter.
So off top, can't you see what this is about? Right off top, what does the girl's race have to do with this at all? It's all about sensationalism. It's all about, look, this is discrimination. This is racism. A black girl was arrested for artwork, which you can't find it. You can't find the artwork. I looked online. I searched images. I can't find this artwork, but basically she drew a portrait of some sort of a classmate that was bullying her. And I'm guessing they're not showing it because maybe it involves some like weapon or something that's gruesome, something barbaric. That's just my guess. It could be wrong. But there's probably a reason why a parent saw that and was like, can we do something about that before something happens to my daughter? Right? So the girl gets arrested, which I don't know. It's a 10-year-old girl. There's not enough of the story to where you can actually draw a conclusion here to say, yep, that's totally racist discrimination. We need to reform the whole system. And anytime the ACLU steps in, you know it's a fraud. They stand for the American Civil Liberties Union, and yet they only want to target situations where it's beneficial to them, where they can promote more racial division and hostility where it doesn't exist. That's what I think is going on here. I think the girl's race is absolutely irrelevant because we don't even know why she got arrested. We don't know why this mother decided to call the police on her or say demand that the school or call the police. We don't know. We don't know the race of the mother or the student that was bullying her, supposedly. We don't even know that. And yet people are jumping to conclusions, knee-jerk reactions. It's racism. Hawaii school district is so racist. Where's the evidence? We don't have it. So they're going after this. And then, of course, they have to add as much layer of oppression and victimhood as possible. ACLU calls for reforms after police arrested a disabled 10-year-old black girl. Again, what does that have to do with, what does her being disabled have to do with anything? And when they say disabled, you guys, it's so deceptive. She has ADHD. Once upon a time, I was diagnosed with that. Wasn't that the most overdiagnosed thing? ADD, ADHD. Is that a disability? Give me a break. And what does it have to do with her getting arrested? What does it have to do with the artwork that we haven't seen? We know nothing about it. I'm guessing if the cops got involved, there must have been some type of threat. Because, I mean, unless you're just saying like the cops in Hawaii were just itching to go arrest a black girl. Well, let's arrest her because she's black. Let's investigate this because it's a black person. Let's just go after them and target them. It's not because there's something substantial there that we need to investigate and maybe be on the lookout for. It's because we just want to target black people. That's our goal. Who believes that garbage? Who actually thinks that? And it's just so obvious what they're trying to do. Divide, divide, divide. Victim, victim, victim. Look at her. She's disabled and black. And she's 10 years old. And it's just an extortion tactic. Because look at this statement right here. What the ACLU and the mother are doing. The mother expressed some concern about being African American and in an encounter with police and was worried about her daughter's safety in light of the police presence given the high rate of police violence against black people, false narrative, and the discriminatory disciplining of black girls in school, the letter said. So if you've been paying attention, if you ever look on YouTube, if you ever look on Twitter, if you ever look on TikTok, you can go search for it yourself. If you look up school fights, if you look up, I mean, I could go further than that. If you look up school fights, if you look up altercations in school, they're largely involving black children. And we could go down the rabbit hole and get into the whole reason behind that. You know, what's upstream from black children getting suspended and stuff. But what they do is they just give you the narrative. Black children are unfairly targeted for discipline in school. And so she says that she was concerned over being black, but she has no proof that she was being targeted. Doesn't explain anything other than I'm black. That's why they did this. So of course, the ACLU had to swoop in, and they want the city and state to pay $500,000 in damages to the child and her mother. So why was the mother detained? Why was she put in a separate room? Do we know why? Was she being hostile? Was she yelling? We don't know that, but the ACLU is trying to extort money out. Don't be surprised if, Al Sharpton jumps in on this. This is an Al Sharpton type situation going on in Hawaii. So we'll see what comes of this, but I just think it's absolutely ridiculous. And then they say, the ACLU is saying, the mother and daughter were singled out because of their race, both perceived and treated as more dangerous, less rational, and less worthy of respect for their rights than the non-black students and parents involved. The ACLU letter said. So they have no evidence of this whatsoever. The American Civil Liberties Union, if they really cared about civil liberties, why don't they investigate kids getting face masks taped on? Why don't they investigate some of the practices of these teachers, teaching them about gender and sexuality? Where's the ACLU on that? Where's the ACLU on the mask mandates? And oh, by the way, where's the ACLU on this? Remember this 5 minutes ago when a black Texas teenager shot up his school and went home the next day, bonded out, had a welcome home party and everything. See this narrative. Black people are being hunted down. They're being shot down. The system is so systemically racist. But then a black teen goes and shoots up his school and gets to go home the next day. By the way, I'm just guessing by the name of the kids that he shot. Zacchaeus Selby, that sounds like a black name. He shot black kids. Where's the ACLU on this? Nowhere to be found because it doesn't fit their narrative. This completely contradicts their entire narrative. And that's why some people are like, Mike, why did you bring up race with that Texas teenager? I brought up race to use it because they would say the other thing. If it was a white person, oh, the white guy got to go scot-free after his mass shooting. This guy was arrested, this teenager, arrested without incident after he fled. So they didn't shoot him dead, and he got a slap on the wrist. He got out the next day, whereas the kid that he shot just got out of the hospital. So the person that he injured spent more time locked up in a hospital, not literally locked up, but you get what I'm saying, spent more time in a hospital than he spent in jail. So miss me with all of these lies, all of this garbage, all of this propaganda, trying to target schools, trying to paint the police as racist. And the American Civil Liberties Union does not stand for American civil liberties at all whatsoever. And you could probably go look and see who bankrolls them, and you'll be not surprised. You'll be like, oh, of course, makes sense. Yeah. So that's all I got. Last thing is, majority of unvaccinated Americans are concerned enough about COVID-19 to wear masks. This is hilarious. The majority of unvaccinated Americans are concerned enough about the coronavirus to wear masks regularly, a poll found, perhaps dispelling a common belief that those who choose not to get vaccinated remain largely unconcerned about contracting COVID-19. I don't know about that. I just thought this was kind of interesting. They're saying people who aren't vaccinated still are fearing COVID. I mean, that could be true somewhere, but I don't think it's true. I think the majority of the people that are against it, you don't see them out at these rallies masked up, because the majority of people that are against this can see that this is being exploited. This entire virus, this entire pandemic is being exploited for power grabs. It's a government power grab. That's what it is. It's tyranny. So they're rejecting all of it. And they're probably looking at some of that dangerous scientific misinformation that they say is you're not supposed to talk about. Can't go against the CDC and the World Health Organization and Rochelle Walensky and Dr. Fauci, even though they've been lying to you and got caught lying about where the virus came from and all of that stuff, you still got to trust them. So I don't buy this one. Nope, not at all. So that's it, guys. I think I covered everything. And again, before I get to the comments, I just want to remind you all that there is an event coming up on Monday. I will be posting a flyer because I'm heading to New York, where we are going to cover a pretty big, I think it's going to be a couple thousand people, protest against the mandates up there, marching across the Brooklyn Bridge. It's going to be a big thing. And I'm very excited to cover this. I think it's extremely important to get more eyeballs on the situation. People around the world watch what's going on, and there's not enough coverage of what's happening in New York. They're looking for that, especially in other countries where the tyranny is much worse than it is here. So we'll be covering that. And I'm going to post the flyer after this on social media so you guys can see it. And if you're in the area, you can come on out. And also, if there's anything like that going on in your state, if there's any protest or gathering, send the information to me. My DMs are open. You can also email me, MikeNificent813@gmail.com, because I would love the opportunity to cover it. We need to cover it. We need more coverage of the rise up and the unity against these mandates. All right. Now, let's read a few comments, and then I got to skedaddle on out of here. Let me see. Let me scroll up a little bit. Look up Chuck E. Cheese fights. Yeah, I mean, you can find these fights. There's literally a website called, what is it called? World Star Hip Hop. World Star Hip Hop is dedicated to a bunch of black people fighting. A whole website. There's a whole, but we pretend like, oh, it's not a thing. It's just unfairly targeted by police. They're having way more interactions with the police, but they leave out the fact that committing way more crime. Why do we leave out that fact? It's a fact. You could see it, and people are still like, that's not a thing. It's just the police are just out here targeting black people, targeting this girl because she's black, not because she may have actually committed a crime. The whole reason is because she's black, and the cops were like, yeah, let's just target her. We don't know anything about that situation. We don't know who the girl was that was bullying her. We don't know if that girl was black or white or what. You don't know if she was actually being bullied. You don't know if the parent is black or white. You don't know if the arresting cops are black and white. You don't even know what the reason was she got arrested. Like they said, it's because she drew a photo or drew a portrait. But we don't know anything about that portrait. But yes, you're being targeted. You're being targeted because of your race, because you're being bullied. And the Texas school shooter was being bullied and robbed, and that's why he shot up his classmates. But he's the victim. Even though he got to walk scot-free, he's on an ankle monitor. Whoop-de-doo. No attempted murder charges. Just go on home, have a party with your family, enjoy your weekend. We'll see you on Monday. Don't bring your gun. See, they're just full of it. They're such liars. If your kid is being bullied in school and you don't step in, you don't switch them to a different school, if they're being robbed and you don't call the police, then that just means you don't care. But don't talk to me about racism in the school district and systemic racism when black people are getting let go all the time, man. People, I just covered a story yesterday about a rapist in Philadelphia who's not even supposed to be in the damn country, who had a rap sheet including a sex abuse charge, but he was walking the streets of Philly freely and then goes and rapes a woman in broad daylight on a train. The mass shooter in Minneapolis who shot up downtown a couple years ago, and because we're not allowed to prosecute black people, we got to give them a slap on the wrist, we're overcorrecting for the past, and let's just not prosecute him at all. They let him out. He committed another mass shooting a few years later in which people were killed. So the soft on crime approach, I mean, I'm just saying, man, I don't want to sound like a broken record here. It's ridiculous. Thanks, Mike. Great stuff. God bless you all. God bless America. Thank you. Thank you all. And thank you to the super chatters. I think there was one from a few minutes ago. Yes, here it is. Luciano. No one is talking about this Natural News article. Let me click on it here and see what we got. Let's see what we got here.
Welcome to the Health
Whoops.
Ranger report on.
I hate when it just starts playing automatically. What do we got here? What are we looking at, Luciano? I don't want to play it if it's going to get me in trouble. It's 24 minutes long. But thanks for putting it in the chat. Oh, this is what's his name? I forget this guy's name, but I like him. Somebody put in the chat, remind me who this guy's name is. I've seen him before. His name slips my mind. And I'm sure it says something right here. I don't know. I can't remember his name. But yes, check this out. I like that guy. He's solid. And thank you for putting that in the chat and bringing awareness to it. But I don't want to play it. You can give me the gist of what it is. No, you don't have to. You can go to Omaha. Oh, something you guys are talking amongst yourself. Why haven't the rhinos scrutinized these corrupt Democrats like Pelosi, Biden, Clintons, and Waters? Because they're in on it. It's the Liz Cheneys of the world. It's Adam Kinzinger. It's George Bush. These fake, phony, so-called Republicans and these phony neocons in the media like Meghan McCain and Anna Navarro, they're phonies. They're frauds. They only go on CNN and The View for sparring purposes. It's just for entertainment. That's why Meghan McCain's on The View. Not because she's an actual principled conservative. Her dad was a war criminal, a corrupt neocon. That's why. Any Republican that is not forcefully condemning these mandates, actively working to rebel against them, calling special sessions in their state to strengthen the protection of civil liberties of their constituents, any Republican that's not doing any of those things might as well be a Democrat. Don't even bother calling them a Republican. But we're going to vote these rhinos out. We're going to get them out. They got to go. It's not just the federal level. It's the state level. I mean, look at Georgia. Brian Kemp. He's got to go. Arkansas. Hutchinson. He's got to go. Mike DeWine in Ohio. He's got to go. Doug Ducey in Arizona. Lisa Murkowski, Arizona. Or no, where's she at? She's Alaska. She's got to go. Susan Collins. Liz Cheney. Mitt Romney. We know who they are. These Republicans, the only thing worse than a Democrat is a Republican that pretends to oppose the Democrats. They're sheep in wolves' clothing. They pretend like they're going to go and fight for you. They pretend like they care. They give you all this lip service. But when it comes time to stand up for you, they're voting to impeach Trump. They're voting for this January 6th thing. They're trying to further persecute political prisoners. They're all for going after you. They want to spy on your bank account. Republicans aren't doing anything about it. They want to spy on your bank account, spy on your text messages, mask your kids, label you domestic terrorists, put you on no-fly lists, throw open your borders, flood your community with people coming from God knows where who don't have to follow the same mandates and rigid restrictions that you do. They're using your taxpayer money to fund bioweapons that they then use against you. And then if you happen to notice it, they'll lobby to have you thrown off social media. That's how it works. That's what's going on. I thought Susan Collins was a truck stop waitress. Oh, that's right. That's Occasional Cortex, aka AOC. Oh man, I could really just go on and on and on this, guys. But I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. But I appreciate everybody for tuning in today. Please, please, please give this a thumbs up. So important. Give it a thumbs up. Thanks for tuning in. God bless you. I'll be reporting from New York City at some point. I'm not sure when I'll be going out there, but the event is Monday. If you're anywhere in the area, please come on out so that you can participate. And if not, tune into Right Side Broadcasting as we're going to be covering it. And I hope that we can cover more events like this. Send anything you have. If it's a flyer, that would be ideal. a contact person who's holding that rally, email it to me, inbox it to me on Twitter, on any other social media platform that I'm on. God bless you guys. Thanks for tuning in. Thank you to the super chatters. Thank you to the moderators. You guys are terrific. I'll catch you guys in the next stream. And don't forget, Epstein didn't kill himself.